This logical next step will give our committees the full power to gather all the facts and answers for the American public. That's exactly what we want to know, the answers. I believe the President would want to answer these questions and allegations as well. I do not make this decision lightly. And regardless of your party or who you voted for, these facts should concern all Americans.
That was House Speaker Kevin McCarthy yesterday announcing a formal impeachment inquiry against President Joe Biden. The House GOP conference is holding a meeting tomorrow to lay out the latest findings in their investigation into the Biden family influence peddling scheme, something that the Democrats continue to say is not true. Joining me now is California Congressman Mike Garcia, a member of the Appropriations, Intelligence and Science, Space and Technology Committees. Congressman, good to see you. Thanks very much for being here this morning.
Hey, good seeing you, Maria.
How do you see all of this playing out, particularly given what you're watching in the Appropriations Committee, 10 days to get this government funded or face a government shutdown?
Yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of high drama and theatrics coming up here. We certainly need to fund the government. I think my focus is figuring out how can we decouple the DOD budget, the appropriations bill, the $826 billion that funds our military, away from these conversations on CRs, extended continued resolutions, away from the impeachment discussions. These are all things that are very important, but they should not be leveraged against each other, and we should be able to manage these things a la carte, still legislate while also looking for accountability through the impeachment process. As far as the impeachment process, Maria, I think we've hit critical mass. I think there's enough evidence there to move forward with this inquiry. And I think Americans just seek clarity. You know, I represent a district that Biden won by 13%. And they want clarity. They want the truth. It's either an amazing coincidence that you have two very business-savvy nations like Ukraine and Russia hiring a drug addict with a prostitute problem, or they were doing so paying him tens of millions of dollars for access to then sitting Vice President Biden. We deserve the answer to that. And frankly, President Biden should want the answer to be public as well. If he's not guilty of this, he should be encouraging these inquiries moving forward, having the evidence come out, and having a very public discussion about it.
So what's going to be the most important tool that you get as a result of this impeachment inquiry? I mean, you know, what's the answer to the Democrats saying there's no evidence of it? We've seen or heard about the 176 suspicious activity reports. We saw the whistleblower testimony. What does this inquiry get you?
Yep.
And what do you really want to see in terms of directing and connecting the dots to Joe Biden?
Yeah, 5,000 emails, transactions, tens of millions. I think we're looking at $20 million worth of transactions are spread across these shell companies, fake LLCs that were set up. All the money going to the Biden family for some reason. Look, it's like what I said. It's either an amazing coincidence that they hired one of the most incompetent business people with no subject matter expertise in any of these arenas, or they were looking for access. So what we're looking for is that direct nexus between the evidence that we have so far and the vice president. It's not an impeachable offense to have a son who has gone awry in some sideways business dealings. What's an impeachable offense is taking this money as a bribe or for access, a quid pro quo, if you will, and then effectively lying about it to the American people. If you recall, Maria, 4 years ago, this whole Hunter Biden laptop was sold by media as a hoax, right? The reason Biden won by 13% in my district is because my voters were operating under the auspices that this was all make-believe, and we've found out that it's all very much real. So what we're seeking is the nexus, the bank account statements that show the direct access, or the conversations that say, hey, I will give you money in exchange for access to the president, or any sort of indications that the president himself was involved in these business dealings, which he's been denying to this point. So I think there's an opportunity for that to happen. No one wants this to happen, by the way. I don't want to impeach a sitting president. I just want clarity, and my constituents want clarity and the truth and accountability if there's wrongdoing.
Lee Zeldin, I'm just wondering if there are certain people who actually would not mind a government shutdown, because a government shutdown shuts down everything, including this investigation. Jump in here.
Yeah, I mean, there's a possibility that we might just be heading towards a continuing resolution. We'll see where we are in a couple weeks. I know people like Congressman Garcia would love to actually have the whole government funded for the year, but unfortunately, you have one Mike Garcia in Congress. You don't have 535 of them. Congressman Garcia, it's great to see you. Can you speak at all to what you know of the infrastructure? Who's going to be in charge of this impeachment inquiry? Will we be seeing transcribed interviews and depositions? Will there be a website where evidence is going to be posted? What do we know at this point as far as the infrastructure? Will there be a war room for the congressional Republicans? Can you speak to any of that?
Yeah, I think more of that will be coming out. I won't be a part of it as an appropriator and as an Intel member. This will be held by Oversight Judiciary. So Comer and Jim Jordan will be running this. I think it's, from what I understand, going to be through regular order within those committees, bringing forward the depositions, the evidence, and everything else. But to your point and to my first point, we've got to figure out how to fund the military right now. Throughout all of this, with all of these issues, we have our troops who I'm very proud. We got about a 40% pay raise as a starting salary included that I wrote myself for E1s in the military. Biggest pay raise in our nation's history. If we don't pass this DOD budget, hopefully this week or next, all of this is put into jeopardy. So we've got to figure out how to do all of these things in parallel. Pass the DOD budget, hopefully get to a short-term CR and fund the government before the end of the year, while also holding this president accountable.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have so much to deal with now, and the appropriations process you're referring to, you're focusing on the Department of Defense budget. Are you getting pushback? I mean, right now, as we speak, you've got a larger Navy in China than the United States. Joe Biden just recently said the U.S. is out of ammunition, telling the world that. Can you talk specifically about the needs in the Defense Department and why you need to get that done ASAP?
Yeah, we have a massive capacity gap. We don't have a capability gap relative to China, but we have a massive capacity gap, meaning we are not building at the rate we need to. They build roughly 2 ships a month. We build 2 ships a year. Same order of magnitude relative to aircraft production as well. We have a Secretary of the Air Force, Kendall, who just a couple days ago said that China is preparing for war, and specifically against the United States of America. So we need to recognize that this is a real threat. We are behind the 8 ball right now in terms of readiness. We have all-time low retention and recruitment right now across all of our branches. We have the weakest commander-in-chief this nation has ever seen, one of the most incompetent and passive secretaries of defense right now, and this pivot to the Pacific never really happened in earnest, and we really need to focus on this. Not funding the DOD on time would be a backbreaking expenditure right now that unfortunately we can't afford.
Yeah.
So we've got to get our troops paid, we've got to get our new programs online and move out.
Yeah, meanwhile, explosive allegations about the CIA this morning, which we're going to get to as well. Congressman, it's good to see you. We'll be watching your work. Thank you, sir. Mike Garcia this morning. We'll be right
Maria.
back.
Appreciate you.